Welcome back here to Calling the Audible. We have one live listener or viewer right now watching this. Say hello. Say hello to the guy. He's a little shy right now. Division C podcast. GM replacing Simone. Alex Hollowak replacing PZ, which is an upgrade, I guess.
Well, I'm replacing Stefano, who's replacing PZ, so it's getting kind of convoluted now at this point.
And Stefano's replacing you, replacing me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then exactly, and then we have Eagle still there, and of course Stefano now in the producer's chair. You got to talk to the mic there, Steph.
Producer Tim.
Relax. Producer Steph. Now we're near producer Tim.
Thomas Yorko.
Yorko.
You guys are going to start saying Yorko now. You'll see.
All right, guys, let's dive into it. The week that was, I'll start off because we'll talk about it as a topic as well. Tats' big win over Dirty Dogs, 22-18. Closest game so far the Tats have probably had in the last, 7 weeks going from winter into the spring season. Dirty Dogs at one point had a lead, and I spoke to Ryan Leonowski the day afterwards because he goes to my gym, and he goes, we had these guys beat. We just didn't close it out, and the Tats, with their pedigree of success they've had in years past, came through with a big victory. And I'm not saying this would have been a bad loss for them, but Jesse Dupree was rather ordinary. Only 8 of 12 for 129, 2 TDs, 2 INTs. I felt like they played down to the Dirty Dogs level of competition. But the Dogs, if they can put it together and play 2 good halves of football, if they get into the playoffs, they can be a much better team in terms of what they did now compared to what they could be in July.
We saw this from them in the winter season, Division 3. They're a very mercurial team, the Dirty Dogs are. Some weeks they can come out with a full roster and look flat, and other weeks they can show up with 5 guys and give a run to the money to the best in the division. Ryan Lewinsky is all-around baller in Division 3. He uses his athleticism at quarterback to make things happen. Dave Chidiat, probably top 3 receiver in any division that he competes in FPF. What I find surprising in this game is only 12 attempts for Jesse Dupree. Was that the result of a very slow, methodical Dirty Dogs offense?
On. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And that's a strategy that they like to employ, right? And it worked to their benefit in this game, which saw them with a much closer outcome than many would have expected.
Yeah, that's how you take the wind out of the sails of a team with a powerful offense like the Alpha T's.
So we look at the Tats, right? Are they the best team in Division C? I think we can agree that they are probably that. But you mentioned before, Hollowak, which I agree to, is the weakness to their team is time of possession, that Team X has to win or slow this game down to a standstill where they don't get into rhythm and really control possession.
That's only the case if the defense they're facing is also very, very good. Because if you slow down the pace of the game, but you can't stop them, it's all for nothing.
I think that the Alpha T's are the premier team in this division. I think that I don't want to use the term Division Dodgers for them because they fit within the cap in this new era, so you can't really call it Team Division Dodgers. But this is certainly a team that has thrived in that middle tier of FPF for a while now, and they're ready to push the boundary, I think, in the upcoming future, in the near future.
And every time they do push the boundary, though, they sort of fall to the
you have to flounder a bit. You have to flounder in the middle a bit. You can't always jump into a division and be instantly a competitor. So I do think they're the premier top dogs in this Division C. They have the experience, they have the explosive offense, they have the shutdown defense, leading the division in points allowed to date. So for me, yes, they are the best team in this division.
But was this a warning shot for them that they could be had?
It's always a good wake up call mid-season. Teams get a lethargic around the midpoint of the season. It's kind of the same stuff that you see from week to week. Playoffs are still 5 weeks away. The excitement from the beginning of the year is 5 weeks in the rear view. So you start to get a little bit complacent, and I think that's what probably happened to them this week. I'm not going to make too much out of this lackluster performance. I think that in the next week or two, we're going to see them start gearing up for the stretch run, and we're going to see that kind of trademark Alpha T's powerhouse that we're accustomed to.
Any games you guys saw this week that caught your attention from Division C, gentlemen?
That caught my attention. I saw the Vikings Game Changers game. We watched that together.
Yes. Oh,
and it felt like Game Changers could have pulled off the upset, I guess, but were always 1 or 2 plays short. They needed to come up and make the plays. Interceptions were dropped. Key receptions were missed. I think that they lost the game for themselves there.
This is a crash and burn for the game changers from where they were 3-4 years ago. It's our fault because we built them up as the next great team of players, and they no longer had that dominance.
I mean, then again, their roster's very different today as it was 3 years ago.
They have a better roster.
It is.
Well,
you have Jordan
okay.
Pineda catching balls for them now.
Yeah. Okay. So to put it in perspective, though, the team or the way they had structured their team when they first came in is not the same as the team now.
Fair.
Right. So the successes of Anton Sakis were dependent on the kind of the team surrounding him, and this is not that same team.
I don't think that structure would have been sustainable for them, though. They had a premier rusher, they had a big deep threat down the sidelines, and smart defensive players. But at a certain point, the quarterbacks get better, and the rusher isn't as big of a game breaker. And your burner down the sidelines gets covered by oftentimes the best DB, or they get double teamed. Whereas you don't always have that in the lower divisions, people who can cover someone like Terrence Dobson.
And also a little bit, a lot of bad luck for the game changers, right? Their best player, Justin Filtreau, was injury prone throughout his career in FPF, and Terrence Dobson experienced
torn Achilles.
A horrible injury, torn
that game. I
Achilles.
was
It
there
took
for that
him out
game, yeah.
of the
I was
league.
in that game that it happened.
I remember it was spring season 2 years ago. I was on the far end, and it happened on the other end, and you heard the...
So
It was ugly.
the story of the game changers has been, okay, so this happened in your narrative, and now you're trying to overcome those gruesome injuries, and it's taken you quite some time, because as we all know, it's hard to build a sound roster in FPF. There's a finite amount of talent, and you need to cultivate that talent through chemistry and through years of experience together, and especially with the way life goes, you can't play every season. As we've seen, Anton Sakis has been in and out of FPF. It's sometimes very difficult for years on end to build that roster. And, but they had a good start here. They got Jordan Pineda. They got Louis-Philippe Paquette. If you can build off of those strengths, maybe they come back in the winter season with a more formidable iteration of themselves.
Steph, behind the mic, any thoughts on game changers and what they've done?
Well, I haven't really watched much of the game changes this year, so I won't be able to really give my opinion as to what they could work on and such. But I know that this team can get what it takes to win, and they just need to find ways to prepare for the upcoming matchups, and they just need to do what it works in their favor and just not try to be too complicated with it.
They got to find ways to stop opponents, because 174 points allowed. Doesn't matter how many points you're going to score. That's not going to cut it at the end of the day.
Blue Chips, they are struggling. They barely beat Lobster 22-21. Lobster had a chance to win this football game on the last drive, and they couldn't close it out. John Brown, unfortunately, just
Same as last winter, by the way.
But we look at this though. It is athletes against a bunch of slow athletes, and the slower athletes, the turtles, almost beat the hare in this situation.
Same as Moist the week before.
Right, and I'll ask you this because you played them.
Moist.
When I think of Moist, I think of the old band from the 90s.
David Usher.
That's right. Should Blue Chips be concerned now, GM? Because they have, not saying they played down the competition, but with you and Lobster Dinner, no doubt, not in the same playing field of talent from both sides.
So I think it's testament. We always talk about the experience against the athleticism. I think that Jordan Mitchell just needs to think about what adjustments they've made against these teams in order to close out these games that were super close. Because oftentimes what works for them works very, very well. But in the past 2 weeks, especially against teams that, like you said, aren't as athletically gifted as the Blue Chips, they need to rely on other things to win them games. Defensive schemes, giving different looks to the quarterback, the way you rush the quarterback as well, and who to pick on offense and defense. I think that Jordan Mitchell needs to take something away from that and build it into his game plans from here on out.
I think they're also a team that plays up to certain opponents and plays down to others. And I think that consisting of the elite form of athletes that they have, sometimes they may underrate an opponent and
not take them seriously,
and come in and not take them seriously and not bring their A game, basically.
But they haven't been the same since the loss of top season. 3 weeks ago. Like they're still like we could be top season.
So you think they got
They
a little
haven't been-
punch drunk from that game?
They got rolled by top season. Like top season was Hercules, and these guys were a bunch of Eagles. Not strong.
Well, they don't run a patent offense.
Hold on. In what
I said,
universe
I
are
beg your
Eagles
pardon,
not strong?
You know what? I apologize. You actually work out. There are a bunch of Simon Dagenais.
Oh,
You're saying they haven't been the same.
They have not been the
A
same.
team that won a championship in the winter have one loss since then. Have not been.
But shouldn't that momentum make you an unstoppable force? Like, shouldn't you just roll through teams? You won the championship in winter in overtime, a great game, which I wasn't there for at Chicken Box. But shouldn't that make you the team to say, look, we're going to come in here and beat the crap out of everyone by 40 points, and there'd be no five plays.
Just to not reiterate the point that I just made on our last discussion, mid-season complacency, it impacts all of us, especially if you're coming off a championship season. You go 3-0 to start the year. You start to think a little bit maybe too highly of yourself for a stretch, and you lose a little bit of your game for a couple of weeks. I think they're going to rebound from this. Like I was trying to get to, they don't run a patent offense. They run a real rhythm-based offense. Jordan Mitchell is doing a lot of free-flowing when he gets the ball in the backfield, and there's certain teams, especially veteran teams, who can kind of prepare for that a lot better and force them into more uncomfortable situations. So they're going to have some matchups that give them more trouble than others, but overall this is a very strong team, one of the elite teams in the division, and I truly believe it's only a matter of time before they rebound from a 4-1 record. I mean, what are we talking about? 4-1 record's phenomenal. They're winning 80% of their games.
Punches,
They lost one game, and they lost one game to a team that's also 4-1. I don't get
some
this
punches,
either.
though.
Don't worry.
They take some punches, though.
In my opinion, I
Yes.
feel like the blue chips just do what it takes to like be amped up.
Well, you
Like,
said that
it's
to me
as if
before.
they purposely throw the first half.
Right, you
the
said
last
that to
2
me
weeks.
at halftime, yeah.
2 straight weeks. Okay, they were getting blown away at halftime, and then the second half they like flip a switch.
It's like the kid who's too smart for his class, and he like Eagle, and he starts acting up and doing poorly for a while until he gets challenged a little bit more, right?
It's like some people. I'm gonna bring in the video game. Like some people, let's say they're playing FIFA or whatever. They're too good for the game, so they tend to just mess up at the beginning like that. It keeps it entertaining towards the end. You don't
So they're
get bored.
challenging
So
themselves.
basically, they do it on purpose, not to blow out teams from the very start, just to keep it entertaining.
Eagle,
for
can you
them.
explain to us this thought process?
Being the
'Cause
smart
you
kid
are-
yourself.
Yeah.
I was going to continue on Stefano's thought and say that they're the guy who takes the Browns in your NFL league and still beats you.
And they win the Madden Super Bowl. Anything else that caught your attention from this past week, guys?
I saw a good game last night, actually. I saw the Mountain Lions stick it to the Braves U. Mountain Lions, very good team, top to bottom. Kind of look like the Coyotes, essentially, with Jake Applebaum.
How is he now? And from your perspective, watching him, I know he had the knee injury, so you being the quarterback yourself.
Well, I followed him in Division 3 in the winter, and we saw his kind of rebound. It was a slow trajectory. He wasn't lights out of the gate, but got better throughout the year and finished off strong. And I think he's transitioned that into Division C in the spring season. Wasn't his best game last night, but still did enough to put his team up. Top 200 yards passing, found his key receivers. So I think Jake Applebaum is back to where he was pre-injury, and I think he's getting better, and he's evolving into that next level of quarterback that he was always projected to be.
Look ahead here, guys. Backyard Bullies, they took out Bearskins, and they exposed...
They destroyed Bearskins.
They
They
trashed
destroyed
them.
Bearskins.
Backyard trash, essentially. But in your mind now, we all knew Vinny Galano was going to score touchdowns, right?
Were
Thank
you
you,
even
Eagle.
not on mic for that?
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
That's half the fun.
Okay. Anyway, but and I'll ask you, Hal, and I'll ask you, GM, now. We spoke about it before, about Vinny's impact on this team and what happens in the supporting cast here. Who can step up, though, for this Bearskins team that had no one play good at all on Monday nights?
Can I just ask the question? Mark Belvedere is quarterbacking the Bearskins now?
Yes, that's right. And his go-to guy is Vinny Galano. That's all it is.
But what
You-
happened to Ryan Edinson?
He's taking the year
Neil
off.
Edinson?
Season off.
Neil Edinson, I'm sorry, yes.
Ryan's there. Neil's taking the season off. But this reminds me of, I'll use an NBA term because you guys are all basketball fans. It's like James Harden and everyone else. Back in the day before Chris
Well,
Paul.
okay, let's hold up for a second.
It's like,
now.
sorry, I beg your pardon.
Like
Vinny
Russell
Galano,
Westbrook.
I take
Vinny
issue.
Galano is James Harden?
no, Vinny Galano, I beg your pardon, is LeBron James, and there's everyone else in
I
this
take
team.
issue
That's
to
even
a
worse.
couple of points.
So who's J.R. Smith?
First of all, Mark Belvedere before this week was probably the front runner for quarterback of the year through the first 4 weeks of the season. So let's not jump off the guy's bandwagon because he had one horrible game against a very smart and very strong backyards bullies experienced defense. Secondly, there's a guy called Marco Bertoldi on the Bearskins.
Did nothing.
You're completely disregarding.
Did
the
nothing.
guy is a legend in mid divisions FPF.
He did nothing.
He's still Marco Bertoldi.
But
He's
if
still
he
a
is that,
quality
where was
player.
he on Monday then?
Well, they just got out game planned.
You know
And
where
I think Belvedere got overwhelmed by a very astutely designed backyard bullies defense.
And there is no one better equipped and have more knowledge on what works for Bearskins and what doesn't than the backyard bullies. That core knows the other team up and down.
You know where
Sean Avram, the mastermind behind the backyard bullies defense.
You know where I saw Marco Bertolli?
Where'd you see him?
On the service road riding his bike home. That's where I saw him.
Well, that's what he does.
That was his impact
I
on the
love
game.
riding
In
a
the
bike
environment.
myself. You might catch him on the Lachine Canal on a nice sunny Saturday, paddle boating and crushing a few cold ones also. The guy likes to stay fit.
Did he do the tortilla?
That I don't know, but
Perhaps.
if he did it, I'm sure he finished in the top 50. I mean, he's just that kind of competitor.
But you look at backyard bullies though, and it feels like they've found their groove. I know they had the ugly loss early on in week 1, but now they have the second, if not third best defense for points against behind Alpha T's.
Why do you sound surprised?
But at first we're like, oh boy, they took a knock on the face, but here they are. Are they peaking?
Because we're super reactive and one
We're
thing
reactionary.
happens.
We're all reactionary.
Yeah, so
Rich
I'm
Humes
sorry, I'm not understanding the point you're trying to make then.
No, the point
Rich
we're
Humes is
bringing-
cooking right now.
Yeah.
No,
and
that's
he's
it.
back.
Rich Humes is playing better football now.
Played very poorly the first few weeks of the year. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Didn't look anything like himself, but now he's back to being that elite kind of Division C quarterback that we expected him to be.
Could they run the table and perhaps be
Absolutely.
a top 2 team?
Absolutely, they can run the table from here on out because we've seen them do it. They were Division D champions just last spring, and now they come in with a slightly retooled roster in a Division C, which is very similar to last year's Division
And like
D.
a couple years back, no fly zone as well on with a similar core.
That's probably a more astute comparison as well. No Fly Zone, which went undefeated and took the championship in Division C.
But
Eagle.
then, would you say that the backyard bullies' weakness is Rich Humes not having a good game, and that's the only way to beat them?
No, I think there's matchups there that they're less favorable against. Extremely athletic teams who play a smart brand of football can have some degree of success against them. Definitely, Rich. Anytime a quarterback's not going to have a good game, their team's going to be in doubt for winning. That's just FPF. So,
Are they a better, like, I know Vinny Galano's played with the core group here. Are they a better team now without him? Have they adjusted well enough now? Do you believe they can perhaps make a deeper run?
from my opinion, they're whole with Vinny on the squad. So I think that they are not better without Vinny. I do think that they are very good and comfortable where they are at right now. So that would be my answer to that.
The only problem with bringing Vinny back onto this roster is if you add Vinny, you have to remove
Well,
two
yeah,
backyard bullies.
Take away the
not
cap.
one, two.
Take away the cap purpose, right? If they're going to be that whole scenario, though, if you take away the cap purpose, obviously they're a better team. But you take away two bullies, then who do you take away then? Are those two guys you can think of? Hey, I can take away Sean Avram and take away Alex Moreau, and we'll be better with Vinny Galano.
Well, it would probably have
No.
to be Jordan Allard, right? You're probably looking at one of those two guys since the high rating comes into effect there, the 80
Yeah.
rating. So who would you rather have, Jordan Allard or Vinny Galano?
oh,
No,
Jordan
it
Lar's
would
going
be, no, it would be the pair. It would have to be like
A
Jordan
di- a
Allard
combination.
and Alex Moreau or Vinny Galano.
I think Jordan has a higher offensive rating than Vinny does.
But
Jordan's
w-
about 83, Vinny's
would
about an
you-
80 after all of those readjustments that he's gone through in the
I
past
was
few
going to say
seasons.
that on what
LeBron
planet?
James,
A Hall of
of
Famer with an
Bears
80
fans.
offensive rating, but I'm just sipping my
Steph,
tea
your
here.
thoughts?
Well, I believe that if they have Vinny on their team, they will try and get him the ball the most, and then the offense and the opposing defense will adjust to that, and their entire strategy just differs. And I believe if you have a guy like Vinny could make a big impact. But I would prefer having two role players than one star. Let's just
So
say.
you take
in my
Allard
opinion.
and Moreau over Vinny Galano.
over Vinny Galano. Yeah.
Would you guys do that? Would you take Allard and Moreau over Vinny Galano?
I don't think that's how it works, cap rating, because
Well, I would say
Allard
losing
has.
those
But
two
if you're
guys.
going to go with those two guys, yeah, I'll take Allard and Moreau. Moreau's an excellent player, and Allard is as well. So I'll go with those two players for that one player any day, as
Yeah.
much as I respect Vinny's play.
Two is better than one.
You know what's going to happen? Allard's going to come up to me like, oh, I see you put that question out there, Emo. He's going to come up to me on Monday at St. Laurent. I see you put that question out there. He always comes up to us for his podcast.
Well, I like the Allard for Vinny.
Yeah.
Which one you taking? Leave Moreau out of the equation. I think that's a very interesting conversation.
Well, we'll find out how it plays out moving forward. Mid-season report card, gentlemen, here. The quarterback, receiver, defense, two-way of the year, midway point. I'll ask you, GM, who's your quarterback of the year at this point?
I don't think there's a front runner. I think it's going to be anyone's game up until week 8 or week 9. So the top 4 right now: Rich Humes, Mark Belvedere. Mark Belvedere, as Alex mentioned, had a bit more of a commanding grip on the others. Has slumped a little bit. But Rich Humes, Mark Belvedere, Jake Applebaum, and Jesse Dupuis, those 4 right now, it can be anyone's game at this point.
I got Jesse Dupuis. He has only 3 INTs thrown. He also has 3 rushing TDs, which don't appear on the passing totals. So that's 26 touchdowns, probably close to 1,000 yards when you factor in his rushing yards as well. Incredible QBR. Jesse Dupuis is my guy at the midway point. I think behind that, I'm looking at, here's the thing. I like Mark Belvedere. I like the scrappy way that he came out of the gate. I don't think this is going to be the only game that sees him have a little bit of a letdown. I think he's going to have a few more of those rough patch games, which are going to disqualify him from the elite contender status by season's end. So I'd put Jake Applebaum into that category and Rich Humes as well. But I definitely will.
Do you put Rich over Jake or under Jake?
I put Rich under Jake strictly because Jake Applebaum has all the tools at receiver to thrive, and he has more of the quarterback arm, quote unquote. So it's just a question of him putting the ball up to those studs that he has.
GM brought up the point. There isn't a clear-cut favorite, but if it came down to where we're still in the gray by week 10 of who we think is the quarterback of the year, what will be the determining stat for you to say this guy's going to win it because of passing yards, completion, QBR? Is it touchdowns? What do you think could be?
I'd say it's wins, no?
Wins? Could it be wins? Quality wins, maybe? Is that what we're going to look at here?
Efficiency, QBR.
Yeah. All else considered, if yards and touchdowns are equal and INTs are similar, I'm going to look at QBR, which at that point is going to be dictated by completion percentage. And if everything else is equal, everything else being close, then we'll look at wins. But like we said on the last program, you can't look at wins because it speaks a lot to the quality of the team that the quarterback's playing with, and there's just too much bias included in that. We have to look at the primary stats to determine.
Receiver of the year. We've given this to Vinny Galano as the lead horse from start to present. Could Jordan Panetta make it closer? 11 TDs through 5. Same number of catches. He's only 41 yards off of Galano for the overall lead as the receiver.
We watched that game against the Vikings. Jordan had a few opportunities that he still stumbled upon. Like he could have had a couple more interceptions, maybe even another touchdown. Alex said that he thinks that Mark Belvedere might struggle again down the stretch, but even then, Vinny is his safety outlet right now, and he's getting those targets, so it's going to be Vinny.
And I also think that there's a chance that Marco Bertoldi becomes a much more important factor in this offensive equation down the stretch. So Vinny is gonna vie for that receiving title. I'm sure he wants it and he's hungry for it. But I've seen Jordan Panetta reel off 4 touchdown games, in the past. And I think depending on who the game changers play, if they have a couple weak defenses down the stretch, it's going to allow Sarkis to favor Panetta, and Panetta can make this a neck-to-neck race down the stretch.
I don't think that Marco Bertoldi's increased output in the coming weeks would be a bad thing, though, because that may draw defenders away from Vinny.
It's true.
And then that can allow Mark to redistribute the
but
ball.
here's there for you,
I don't know if they've thrived together so far this season. I think it's been either 1 week Vinny or 1 week Marco. I think Marco had 1 week where Vinny was a little quiet as well. I don't think we've seen them at the same time put up 75 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns each. And I think that equation is going to be the best for them going into the playoffs. So they want to try to find that balance, redistribution a bit more.
So here's the scenario for you, gentlemen. If game changes go 1 in 9, does that devalue Jordan Panetta's stats?
No, because the stats are statistical merit.
Does Vinny Galano hit 30 touchdowns? He's at 15 at 5 games.
No.
Steph?
No, I think Vinny's gonna have he's gonna have this one game that is just gonna be completely taken out of the picture.
Like he was against the Bearskins.
Yeah, it's gonna happen again. Unless, of course, like Hollow X said, Marco Bertoldi takes more of the work away from him, and then Vinny's more open. Then if that's not what happens, then Vinny's gonna have another game of not much.
Yes or no? Does he hit 25 touchdowns?
I'm gonna say no.
I'll say yes.
I'm
I
gonna
think
say
that's
just under.
achievable.
I say he'll reach probably like 22.
Yeah, I'm going to say 23.
22,
23,
max.
just to be different from Stefano.
Defensive player of the year is who in your mind right now, gentlemen?
JF Delos is that front runner. 7 INTs, 2 for 6. Very smart player, dominant on both sides of the ball.
You can't speak against JF Dalos and what he's done. I mean, Josie Baba is right behind him with those nice 2 INTs returned for touchdowns to go with his 4 INTs. But I mean, Dalos is up by 3 interceptions at the moment. So case in point, he is the defensive player of the year at the midway point.
He's come up with some big ones too for Jagerbaum. I remember against Philp, he came up with a big back-to-back big plays, a big PD.
I remember that too.
And the
Alex,
INT.
Alex was there.
Alex, you were there for that. He had a big INT, right? And that kind of deflated your team in the second half.
He's one of those big game players,
Yeah.
and he rises to the moment when it matters most. And he's such a cerebral kind of player on the field. So kudos to him for finally getting the recognition that he's deserved for a long time.
We also talk
Sorry,
about
go ahead.
Jagerbaum starting off slow and then really
Not
turning it
this
up in
year.
the second
They've
half.
been
They're
great.
5-0 right now.
We'll talk about them against Commission, tail of tape. Steph, anyone off your head that you can think of as
I
defense
mean,
player?
like the Jagerbaum's defense, it showcased this week that they were like just nothing went past them against Moist. It was like a 41-8 final. It was a 41-8
This is like an
final.
underhand compliment
I'm
towards
sorry,
Moise.
but
There's
like
only
I was
one thing
watching
that went
that
past
game.
them.
One thing went past them, but like the first half, they were completely shut down. Like JF Delos, he's just he just tells his players where to be, and they just listen, and it just works out. Like there's no stopping him on defense.
Two-way of the year, anyone?
Jared Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor, you got him. And he mentioned to me, I want to win two-way of the year the other day.
It's
Yeah.
likely. Well, I think we also kind of skew it towards quarterbacks a little bit because
Yeah.
their impact is a little bit more evident when they do well. But we were talking about JF Delos and Jose Baba both having 2 pick sixes. So
Yeah.
does Jared.
Yeah, he's fun to watch, Jared Taylor.
That's fair. I would. I think another guy who's up there is Alexis Gaumont. I think he has good stats on both sides. But I think if Jared Taylor is hungry and he wants that award, I think he'll probably go and get it.
Eagle.
Does Jared Taylor's award achievement suffer if Andel Thomas Gordon starts playing offense full time?
Yeah,
Oh.
Andel can't catch.
Was that a writing question?
No, just because I know he's watching. So
Andel couldn't catch a cold if he was out in December dripping wet.
You know,
So,
the Bayesian sensation Hassan Royal was disappointed in Andel's comments last week. He took a break from his job to watch the whole thing, and he's like,
I don't
anyway.
know why you guys give him this much flack, though. I mean, Andel catches. He plays defense, and he picks off those passes.
Once in a while.
He also drops some easy ones, like I've seen it.
Yeah.
But, like,
yeah,
he's
he
Yeah,
more of a
but
tackle
so do
guy.
I.
for every INT he
Yeah,
has,
that's
he
true.
dropped 2 that were right. That were
Like you said,
right in his
GM
hand.
drops open
Excellent,
passes.
Again,
excellent defender. He makes plays on the ball.
GM
but,
drops open passes, and George Michael ends up making those big
Oh,
Oh,
There
mic
you
drop.
go.
You can leave now to high note here, Steph. Guys, one team that has disappointed you at this point of the year is who in your mind? Moist, well, whatever, man. It's is there anyone that's disappointed you? Alex?
I'll leave my own team out of it. I'll put in 2 right now. There's Braves U, which has utterly disappointed me. I know that they're top heavy, but there's just no cohesion on that roster. Watching them play last night, they're going at each other when they get down in the dumps. It's just been kind of a flop so far. I think not having the quarterback there for all the games hasn't helped that at all. And also Brocasian. I mean,
I don't think it's fair to say that, though.
not having him there.
Yeah, like that's something that is also a little bit more outside their control. Like
Yeah.
injuries like that do kind of suck. So, like it's that asterisk, right? Like, yeah, I'd like to see them do better, but we understand why.
But
Yeah.
then again, I also have this fond memory of Leandre Etier as a quarterback with the Buddies, and then I have this terrible memory of the final versus the Incredibles, and seems like it's more the latter than the former right now.
You know what? Last night, sitting scorekeeping that game next to the Mountain Lions, there was quite a few Mountain Lions who came up to me and said, "Isn't that the quarterback from the Buddies who was quarterback of the year?" And they all seem to have this fond reverence for Leon Etier. And then watching him on the field looked nothing like that former shell of himself. So I don't know if it's a confidence issue or extreme rust, or maybe it's just the pieces in place for Braves U, not up to par. They did have Crisy Lozon last night subbing in for Meher.
Sebastian Christie.
Yeah,
Seb
Sebastian-
Manuel. Okay,
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
Seb, the big man, Seb Crisy Lozon subbing in, and they also had Mike Parison, who's a fantastic receiver.
Yeah.
But outside of that, the other 3 tools didn't look like the sharpest in the shed, although, they came up with some plays ultimately. But yeah, definitely, I agree with that, Eagle. I think that not the best comeback season for Leon Etier to date.
Well, Berkasian, they had the big one against top season. Ugly loss last night. We'll see how they fare.
That's the
moving
Jeremy Anderson show when they can get him out.
Yeah, when he's able to play.
They got to keep feeding the panda bear whenever he can make his way
bear.
down to the field.
More like a rhinoceros out there. Okay, tail of the tape. We have Jagerbaum, Commission 5-0. Here they are. Big game this week. The winner we spoke about last week could very well potential playoff spot if we see some teams like Lights Out and Friends in Low Places lose. Who has the edge of quarterback in this matchup between Jagerbaum and Commission?
For their team, like who is objectively the better quarterback, or who is the better quarterback for their team
In this game. Who's the better quarterback for this game right now?
Simon Shine.
I'm going to take Marquis in this matchup.
Really?
I think that Duchesne has the profile of a cerebral quarterback, but he seems to get a little shook sometimes in really big matchups. And I think that Marquis is somebody who's locked in and hungry right now to prove that he belongs in this category. So at this moment in time, I'm not talking about what's going to happen in Week 14 in the finals. I'm saying right now, I think I'm going to lean towards Marquis.
He's had a slow start to the season. Like it took him a while. Like Commission were below 100 points up until their last victory. I think they were at like 85, 88 points, and then they went on an explosion on the weekend against Le Montagnard, and now they're finally 100 points. Steph, who do you have the edge for? I know you've seen Jeff Marquis play and Simon Duchesne play.
Well, see, I've seen JF Marquis at the beginning of the season when you guys said that he wasn't performing like he could. Now you're saying that he had a bounce back performance. Do I believe that it's going to stay that way? It might, but I'll give.
He speaks like such a
I'll give
St. Leonard Italian.
RDP. Me, yeah, he's a
I'm from
but
RDP,
you know,
okay, RDP.
RDP's fine right here, bro.
I'm going to say that Simon Duchesne is going to find a way to, unless of course something happens, because it's happened to like twice I think this season that he's gotten hurt on the first drive. So unless that happens, it's the Jagerbombs have the edge.
All right.
He's gotten hurt and still plays through those games.
Yeah, no,
he's
sometimes
he's
then they
he's
sub
tough,
Inter,
man.
then they sub JF to lose, and then it's like
Deleuze.
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 By the way, do we know?
Deleuze and Yorko.
What is it? What is
Deleuze, man.
Deleuze,
Deleuze.
okay.
Deleuze.
Do we know an
Deleuze. I'm
update
saying it in
from?
French. That's why it's Deleuze.
Sorry, go
Do we
ahead.
know an update from Don Benevento? He's not going to be back.
He's
for
not.
this
No,
game.
he's not back.
I
yet.
heard that Don Benevento is out for the season.
Yeah.
With
Look,
his,
the realistic thing
grade
is,
2
That's
sprain.
unfortunate.
if it falls into place, he could be there for plus, but I highly doubt it. He's probably going to fall. All right,
He's got the heart to come back
Yeah,
if he
and
can.
good for him for supporting his team though. Like you see
He's-
him on
yeah.
the sidelines, like showing up to every game.
And his team is much better with him there, so hopefully
yeah.
he can be back for the playoffs.
receivers.
He's a safety net.
Who has the edge in the receiving category in this matchup here?
I think that the commission are top heavy with Marquis and AJ Gomes.
Can he be
but-
stopped, AJ Gomes?
Can you? Yeah.
Everybody's stoppable. They got the
everyone's-
best defender in the division in
Yeah,
Daluz
Yeah,
on the other side,
Daluz.
so
Daluz.
they can definitely
There you
throw down with AJ Gomes.
Yeah. If he's able to cover AJ Gomes, he will be DeWin and not Deleuze.
Whoa, nice play on
look at
words. All right, we look at commission. They have been priding themselves on their defense and having the best defense in Division C. Do they have the best defense going into this game against Jagerbaum?
Overall, they have a top 3 defense. Yes, they have a top 3 defense against Jagerbaum. Who has the best defense? Honestly, it's a coin flip, right? Like I'm gonna take Jagerbaum simply because they have the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, and I think in big games, big players make things happen. So I'll take Jagerbaum, but it's really a coin flip defensively.
Steph?
It's good. I take Jagerbombs. I feel like JF is gonna. I'm not gonna say his last name before you guys mock me again. But his defense, he's gonna be able to match up with AJ Gomes.
GM.
I like the Jagerbaum defense. We talk about Delos being the front runner, but Felix Fontaine-Larouche, Cedric Knuckle, Simon Lahaye, who doesn't have a lot of stats, but I think that's also because
He's been injured.
They don't
he's been
throw at
injured
him.
and people don't throw at him because he covers so well. He's
he
a player who doesn't talk. He shows up. He does his thing. Very quiet, very respectful, but he puts up numbers when he needs to offensively, and defensively, you just don't throw his way.
Fair enough then. Is there an X factor? One name. That's all I need. One name. That could be a difference in this game here when they play each other for
Who's scorekeeping?
Cedric Nuckel. If we're gonna mess up people's names tonight, Cedric Nuckel is this is a guy just a few years ago was considered one of the elite mid division players, and went away for a couple of seasons. I think he was getting educated, which is always a good thing. And now he's back, and I think he's
School is in session.
School is in session for the rest of the division. So Cedric Nuckel is a guy who can elevate his game in key moments. So I think he might very well be the X factor in this one.
He went for some schooling, and now he's schooling.
What
there
name
a-
here, Drew?
Yeah, I think I'm not convinced that the commission will win, but if the commission win, it will be because of Zachary Albert's skill.
All right, fair enough. The pass rusher. All right, it's now time for
Week of the games?
yes, games of the week
Or week of the games?
or of the week games. Yes, here we go. 3 games.
Only 3?
We go 3. We go one.
Do as many as you don't. You control this right now.
Mo Khan's
That is
word
true.
means nothing to you, Eagle.
Okay.
Relax.
So
We're already-
we're not going to
to
do
lose.
Gigerbomb commission unless you want to do it again.
yes, make your pick. Who you got? You got Jagerbomb. Who you got?
I got. I'm going to go with the top quarterback winning this one, like I said. So I'm going to take the commission.
I got
Steph.
Jagerbombs.
Commission.
All right. We have the Alpha T's and Braves U.
Ooh, that's
I got Tats winning that game.
Yeah. That. Can we pick another game? Then?
Yeah, that's
so.
Tats.
We will go with 4 games.
Is
and
this
not
is
3
this
because
games
we'll
of the
give you a
week, or
mulligan
is
on
this the
one.
week games that you're picking here?
Okay.
Eagle?
We got a
Back a lot.
boring one. I'm going to let you finish and keep Port Lock.
Oh,
Keyboard
that's
lock.
yeah. Keyboard lock have been up and down, but I will give the edge to keyboard on this one.
Is the Dash coming back from Jamaica
Yeah,
for
he'll be
that
back,
one?
yeah.
With his
Then definitely give
with
it
his
to-
hair dreaded out and the bronze skin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Keyport Lock and Jeff
Next.
Rosenblatt.
Steph, you got who?
I got keyboard lock winning that game as well.
Here we go. Next.
We have Blue Chips and Strangers.
Blue chips.
Yep, blue chips.
Blue Chips.
You guys are showing no faith in Gino DeFazio. No, I'm choosing blue chips. They'll find a way to win.
It's a bad matchup for them in terms of athleticism.
The blue chips have too much speed.
Next.
We got Mountain Lions and Vikings.
That's a good game.
Mountain Lions.
Yeah. The Vikings defense is fierce, but I think that the Mountain Lions are a much better team from top to bottom.
When you throw the ball up to Kevin Schmuda, who can contest with him? Not that many in the division. I'll take Mountain Lions in this encounter.
Okay, and last one, Brocasion and Game Changers.
Changers. They get the first one.
Okay.
Okay.
Brocasian.
I think game changers are gonna win. They're gonna take advantage of the fatigue that.
If the Panda's there,
Yeah.
Brocasian.
Yeah.
Jeremy
Magic
Anderson.
words, please.
From all of us here at the Weekly Extra Point Live, thanks for tuning in.
We don't lose here on the Extra Point Live.
Oh, God.
You're welcome.